All right. Hold on. I gotta mute this. Father, we're grateful for the blessings of this day. Father, please, we ask for thy guidance and the strength and courage to face these adversities and these fears and overcome them, Father, to be all that we are capable of being, Father. And these things we pray in thy Son's name, amen. Oh, man. Yeah, okay. So, anyway, yeah, disclaimer first. Welcome to Hobo Hideaway. I'm Jack Schitt, your host. This is Talking Shit with Jack Schitt. Anything we talk about is strictly for educational, documentary, and entertainment purposes only. And we don't buy, sell, or trade nothing. And what else? Yeah, everybody's welcome to have an opinion. My opinion is my opinion, and I don't expect anybody else to share it. And everybody else has got an opinion, and should not expect anybody else to share it. Pretty simple. We can get along and be copacetic in this life. At any rate. So yeah, they gave me that stupid topic, and I didn't want to do it. And what is a man? What does it mean to be a man? And yeah, I gave a vague little 30-minute long descrip about it. Yeah, because I'm a coward and don't want to talk about it. But in the native way and natural way of things, when you can face your fears and stand in your truth, that is a sign of being a man. And so, I got to step up and do that. I got to stand in my truth, regardless of what the world wants to throw at me for it. Everybody can just shut up. Well, no. I need to stop saying that. Nobody needs to shut up. Everybody needs to just, be polite and respectful to everybody else about having their opinions. Anyway, that's, I think, what it's all about. Anyway, here it is. This is the Google printup. This is what Google says a man is. It says, historically, defining what it means to be a man was simple because society handed out a rigid, pre-printed script. Protect, provide, don't cry, and maintain control. Already I'm going to cry bullshit and all that. I mean, that's what society says, but it's not the natural way. Get some light turned on over here. Oh, my goodness. Anyway. All right, today, that old script is fraying, leaving a lot of people feeling adrift. But the unraveling of the rigid archetype isn't a crisis, it's an opportunity. It means manhood is no longer a checklist imposed from the outside. It is a landscape of character built from the inside. That right there, that where it means that manhood is no longer a checklist imposed from the outside. Well, that's what I'm talking about, the natural order of things. The fact is, in the natural order of things, it always has come from within. Anything and everything that we are comes from within. Natural law, as within, the same as without. If we allow the outside world to dictate at and influence our inside, our way of thinking and everything else, then it corrupts us and turns us into this other thing that doesn't work. At any rate, stripped of superficial critical stereotypes and biological baselines, being a man ultimately comes down to a few timeless fundamental pillars of character. Okay, let's see what they are. Number one, radical self-ownership, the inner citadel. Being a man means establishing an internal fortress of accountability. It is the transition from being driven from external validation or fleeting impulses to being guided by an internal compass. I can go along with that. That's basically getting in touch with your spiritual self, your inner spiritual self. The divine is within all of us, and the capacity to be able to access the divine is within all of us. And it's that when we finally learn how to recognize and establish, recognize and utilize that, that right there is a step into manhood that even exists in all ancient times. It was just more of a natural thing, and everybody was taught in childhood. But it's the systems of today that train that right out of us each and every time. All right. Well, anyway, then it says, it gives little bullet points here. The first one is accountability. A man doesn't look for scapegoats. He doesn't blame the winds of fate. He doesn't point a finger when things went wrong. If he makes a mistake, he owns it, he fixes it if possible, and he carries the lesson forward. I agree with that completely. That is the absolute, and that's the natural law as well. You know, this society that we live in now also has trained us to play the victim and blame everybody else. You know, it's everybody else's fault but ours. That woe is me, whatever the case may be. But yeah, the fact is I made the choices in my life that caused all the physical damage that I have in my body, that caused me the pain that I've been suffering today. It's my own fault. Okay. I'm sorry. Hold on. She was talking to me, but now she's not. I'm sorry. That's a brain scroll distraction over there. Kind of got me over there. Where was I here? Second bullet point. Mastery over impulse. It is the discipline to choose long-term convictions over short-term comforts. Yeah, that's the natural way. It's knowing that you are the master of your emotions, your reactions, and your attention, not the other way around. Yeah. See, in today's world where we're bombarded with these distractions, it's kind of hard to not let them dictate you. I mean, I know with me, that's kind of been one of my struggles is maintaining my focus, pulling away from the YouTube world. And, you know, I, I spend too much time over there. I get caught up in doom scrolling. I can sit there and check my messages, and I'll go in and check one of my messages. And next thing I know, I'm in the doom scroll for a half hour, 45 minutes. That's a waste of my life. That's a waste of time. I need to be working and doing other things. Yeah. So I am not quite yet a master of my attention. As far as my reactions go, I am still learning how to master the reaction. I'm getting better at it, but it's, like I said, man, a long time, all I did was react and react and react, and I need to not do that. And as far as mastering of my emotions, yeah, I can't say I'm very successful at that either. I do my best, but yeah, I'm really trying hard. And I can blame, like I keep trying to say, it's society did this and the systems that, we created those systems. We did that. We created them. We perpetuated them. That's my fault every bit as much as it is anybody else's. We participated in them, so it's my fault too, man. All that, when it comes right down to it, doesn't matter what I want to blame. It's my fault. Number two. So the first one was radical self-ownership. And we're still talking about the fundamental pillars. Number 2 fundamental pillar of being a man. Power tempered by restraint. True strength is never loud, performative, or dominating. The old definition of masculinity often confused aggression with strength. Genuine masculinity understands that the greatest display of power is absolute restraint. I do agree with that, because that goes back to that reacting thing and whatnot. Because if you just jump off the handle and react when you're mad, start throwing stuff around or whatever, you're gonna break things. You're gonna, and when you break things, you gotta replace them or fix them, or that gets expensive after a minute. Another thing is if you hurt somebody, then that there's all kinds of legalities there. But not only that, when you get angry and reactive, you say things and do things you can't take back. You can't. You can say I'm sorry all day long, but it doesn't change the fact. You can't take it back. So it's really hard. You gotta master that where you can just stay calm, let somebody push your buttons and whatever, and you stay calm and you don't twist their head off. That's very, very important. Don't do that. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Let's see. Where am I at? So this also came with bullet points. So the power tempered by restraint. The first bullet point is the gentle giant. It is the capacity to be, the gentle giant is somebody who has the capacity to be fierce, competent, resilient, fierce, competent, and resilient, combined with the conscious choice to be gentle, patient, and kind. I just touched on that. Protection over perdition. A man uses whatever strength, intellect, and resources he has to lift others up, shield the vulnerable, and create a safe harbor for those around him. He builds tables, not walls. I am working on that, on all of that. I try and I try, but I fall back into that other childish way of thinking, woe is me sometimes. But I do my best. I really do try hard to help build other people up. And I only can use the resources I have at hand. If I don't have them at hand, I ain't going to be able to use them. That's kind of just how that goes down. But I like that he builds tables, not walls. That's going to sink in pretty profoundly in my thinking, I believe. All right. So that was the, what would I just read in the power tempered by restraint. All right. So the number 3 pillar, the third pillar, is emotional courage. The outdated notion that men shouldn't feel or express emotion is a form of psychological starvation. That's fact. We're allowed to feel just like anybody else. True emotional courage isn't about being an unfeeling block of stone. It's about having the spine to look at your internal world in the eye. Yeah, it's about being able to be honest with who you really are inside and be honest with yourself all the time, regardless of. Anyway, let's read the bullet points. All right. The first bullet point is vulnerability as a strength. It takes zero courage to wear a mask of constant indifference. I'm constantly have a mask of indifference, but I'm not sure it's really a mask. I always just thought it was part of me. It takes immense courage to admit when you are hurting, when you are afraid, and when you don't have all the answers. I got no problem crying about being scared or something or hurt or something or And I'll admit to all that stuff. Not always though. I mean, my neck's been hurting for about a week now, and I didn't tell my wife about it until today, and she got on my case about it. So, yeah. All right. The second bullet point: integration. A man acknowledges his grief, his joy, his anxiety, and his passion. He doesn't suppress them until they erupt as toxic anger. He translates them constructively. Now, that did take me a long time in my life to finally accomplish and whatnot. I used to bottle it up and bottle it up and bottle it up. Now I got this YouTube channel. I just talk about it whenever I got something going on in my head. Here it is. That's why I'm doing this second video on this stupid subject. And I'm going to have to do more because I'm only going to do the man part, and then I got to do the woman part, and then I got to do the anger part. So it'll be a series, a little mini series. Yay. Anyway, yeah, the woman part, that one's going to give me all kinds of grief because how am I supposed to really explain what it means to be a woman? I ain't a woman. I ain't never been a woman. I ain't never going to be a woman. Anyway, that's another subject for tomorrow. All right, so the fourth pillar. The fourth pillar, the value of useful labor. Manhood has long been tied to the concept of the craftsman or the builder, and there is a deep psychological truth to that. It doesn't mean you have to swing a hammer or fix an engine, but it does mean engaging with the world through purposeful, useful action. So that's both old school and new school thinking there. I don't think that one ever did die. You know, when the new school systems that have taken over the world and is set out to destroy humanity came into play, we lost a lot of the ancient old school way of thinking, the ancient ways that worked for hundreds of thousands of years. You know, no reason to change them, except for they changed them so they can manipulate and control us. Okay, there I go blaming other people again. All right, anyway, let me see. So yeah, I still think, we should just definitely keep working and making things. And I like where, it says we got to get, useful action, whatever. I like helping folks. That's always been a thing. It's just the right thing to do, man. It only gives one bullet point, and it's leaving a footprint. It is the desire to leave a piece of the world better, sharper, and more beautiful than you found it. Whether that is through physical labor, artistic creation, raising a family, or mastering a quiet craft, a man finds dignity in doing good work for its own sake. That's truth. That's natural law. We are just made that way where we do feel a self-satisfaction and self-pride. That's why I do all my artworks and crafts. That right there in a nutshell. It's for my own sanity. It's for my own fulfillment and self-fulfillment. I don't do it for anybody else. I do it for myself, and it just makes me feel healthy when I do it. That's just, I like to make things. I like to build things. I like to create things. All right, the fifth pillar, living by a code. Indeed. And we all do have a code. Now, my code is not the same code as everybody else because my code is really basic and really simple. Now, I'll read this and then I'll tell you what it is. Ultimately, being a man means defining your own code of ethics, principles like integrity, honor, and loyalty, and sticking to them when no one is watching, and especially when it costs you something to do so. It is the realization that your word is your currency and your character is the only true possession. I completely agree with all of that. And my code is pretty darn simple. Be honest in all of your endeavors, which means the way you think. Be honest in all of your endeavors. Be honest in how you think, what you say, all of it. Be honest in all of your endeavors. And number 2, treat everything in existence with respect and consideration. Everything. That includes yourself. You got to treat yourself with respect and consideration. You got to treat the world with respect and consideration. It doesn't matter. It said right there, even at your own cost and peril. Even if the world's not respecting me, I still need to respect them. And I travel a lot in my YouTube world. I go around to a lot of different folks all over the place. That's how you get to know people. That's how you make connections. I don't just stick in one channel or one group of people or whatever. I go all over the place and visit them all. Why? Why not? They all have something to offer. There's something good and all. There's good folks and everything. Man, because why wouldn't you, man? You're missing out if you don't. At any rate, what was my point? My point is I don't get respected everywhere I go, but I do treat everybody with respect everywhere I go. Not everybody wants me up in their house. So if I'm not welcome, I bounce out and move on. If I am welcomed, I'll sit around and listen and see what's going on and everything. If I do get overwhelmed with an opinion on something or whatever, I'll make a comment, interject. Otherwise, I mostly just keep to myself. If they bring me into the conversation, I'll come into the conversation. Otherwise, I sit back and just watch, learn, and listen. I get called a lurker. I got called a lurker this morning by somebody. I am indeed what they define as a lurker. I'm the kind of guy that sits around and watches from the background and learns. The best way to learn anything is shut up and listen. If you're so busy trying to talk and put on a show and impress everybody, all you're doing is making a fool of yourself. What purpose is that? At any rate, I'm just saying. That's just truth. That's natural law. Anyway, to wrap this whole subject up, the modern definition of a man isn't about fitting into a box. It's about being grounded enough to stand firm in a storm, open enough to learn from a child, and secure enough in your own skin that you don't need anyone else's permission to be exactly who you are. That right there is the purpose of any man right there. To sum it up, that's enough. The modern definition, but it's that modern definition is still the definition of even ancient times. Even in ancient times, warriors had no problem learning lessons from their children. They didn't tell them, "Shut up, you're to be seen, not heard." That's a new age ideology, and even though it's a new age ideology, it's even ancient to this time. But for hundreds of thousands of years, up until maybe 100 years ago, or a little over 100 years ago, that's the way it worked. In the family situation, in the tribal situation, everybody worked together. Everybody functioned together. That's the way it always worked. They listened to each other. They worked with one another. They did not compete against each other. Yeah. Okay, I made it. I got through that stupid whole reading and talked about it. And that's what the print-up says. I gave you my opinion as we went along. You're all welcome to your own opinion. Going out and acting tougher than somebody else doesn't make you a man. Going out acting like a thug doesn't make you a man. Just because you can make babies, that don't make you a man. What else? Oh, just because you make a lot of money and you're successful in business, that don't make you a man. What else? You know, what makes you a man is being accountable for your own self. It's all right there. You take responsible for yourself, for your own choices, for your own actions. You take care of other people around you. You help people, lift them up. You don't cut people down just so you feel bigger. Yeah, you know. But you know what? When I'm watching a movie and I start crying because something happened, I'm allowed to cry. You know, when my mom is sick or whatever, I'm allowed to cry. When I miss my mom, I'm allowed to cry. When my dad passed away, I was allowed to cry. You know? Yeah, it's just the way. And when my grandkids do something adorable, I'm allowed to cry. When I see a beautiful sunset, I'm allowed to cry. Men cry. At any rate, I think that's all I got for that subject. I'm gonna go turn her back on. I mean, unmute her so I can listen to what she's saying. And good times, man. Good luck to everybody out there. I hope you're all able to figure out what it is to be a man in your own world. And remember, till next time, kindness is key. And I do love you. Later.